Alright, what's up y'all, it's Lake2 here. As you can see, we're back with the second video on the channel, and in today's vid, as you can see by the title, we have the best support mons going into Pokemon Champions. So, as you all know, and as I can attest, if you're a newcomer to the Pokemon scene, or if you come from playing like, single player games, everybody wants to use the damage dealers. Things like Dragonite, Greninja, cool guys, right? Like ones that are fun to play with and ones no one would call cringe. But the right way to play competitive, if you ask me, and as I've learned, as I've been watching the competitive players over the time as well, is to have support mons on the team to allow your cool guy damage dealers like Dragonite and Greninja and, Blaziken, stuff like that, the opportunity to set up or the opportunity to just take things out while you redirect and force attention your way with things like Rage Powder or Follow Me, stuff like that, Friend Guard to support your allies. We're here to talk about all this in this video, so I hope y'all enjoy. If you do, feel free to drop a like, sub, new, turn on noties, all good stuff, and let's try and get this one to 100 likes again like the last one. You guys surprised me like crazy with the last video. That was insane to see it blow up so much for it just being my first video on the channel. But anyway, let's get to business. Let's get to talking about some important stuff here. So I'm gonna have a notes section where I showcase the entire kit, in my opinion, of what you could ever possibly think to run for the movesets on all 6 of these guys right here. These are my favorite support mons. I think it's a little bit less arguable that the 4 on the left are kind of the goats of this stuff, and Whimsicott is arguably one of the best tailwind setters. However, with Galewing's Talonflame getting back in this thing, he might be a bit of a threat too. I think there's a little bit more counterplay to someone like him though, like hitting Fake Out into Talonflame takes the Galewings off. Now all of a sudden you don't have the priority. Someone like Grimmsnarl, let me just kind of theory craft with y'all a little bit right here. Let's say you wanted to run Grimmsnarl with, we'll throw T-Wave on here real quick. Let's say you wanted to run Grimmsnarl with Fake Out, Thunder Wave. In my opinion, this is what makes him a great support mon. There's a lot of deep bag to his kit, and what you could do with someone like Grimmsnarl is fake out the Talonflame first turn. That kind of trolls their setup, but then they're like, oh, well, Talonflame's super fast anyway. I'm still going to be able to get the Tailwind off before anybody on the move. Turns out, then you hit Thunder Wave into Talonflame, cut his speed down into a quarter, and then KO him with your Pokemon that's on your side, whatever your ally is. Boom, there you go. You have completely trolled their entire playstyle with the Tailwind. I think Grimmsnarl is a really big Tailwind killer, if you ask me. Not to mention, because he's a Dark type, you can't even do Prankster moves into him either. So he's like the anti-Prankster in that sense too. You could argue Incineroar counters Grimmsnarl really hard because of also being a Dark type. So with the fact that Incineroar doesn't have Prankster and he can do, status moves like Parting Shot, etc., into Grimmsnarl, Grimmsnarl cannot do Parting Shot into Incineroar because Prankster is not going to allow you to do certain moves like that into Dark types, essentially. Anything that's a status move that you're going to get your Prankster ability to activate on doesn't work. However, just know, Fake Out actually will. It's not a Prankster move. For whatever reason, I guess it's because it's a damaging move, simply put. Fake Out will work into Dark types if you ever were concerned about that with your Prankster Pokemon. But anyway, there's more to it than just Grimmsnarl and Prankster and, these two. Let's kind of start off with going left to right. I want to go on more deep dives with these guys. But I am going to load up, like I said, my little notes section and just give you guys the rundown that way. I feel like it's going to be a lot easier than to go through Showdown and just talk all the moves. Also, for those interested, we are definitely going to be talking about the items you would want to run on support mons. It's going to be at the end though. I'm just going to go over everybody's kit. Like I said, it'll be pretty quick that we'll, dive in all these things and just kind of talk about what they're good for. Not to mention what I do want to do in this video too is go to this Maryland team builder and show you the type synergy that some of these guys have together. I think this trio right here of Incineroar, Sinistcha, and Maushold is going to be a disgusting trio, and especially this duo right here. On my Paris team, I'm calling this the Sin duo right here, so they have great switch synergy with each other. Also, I know I'm kind of all over the place. I do apologize. I'll tighten down a little bit here, but Hospitality is Sinistcha's ability. So this right here on switching is going to restore your allies' Pokemon a quarter of its health. So if you have something at 75, 60, etc., anything, and I mean, to be fair, you could even be at 85% HP and still get the 15 off the switching. But with Sinistcha, it's really built on switching to get its value. You're going to be able to pivot and that's the same thing with Incineroar too. Switching Incineroar in and switching Incineroar out is how you get value out of him, and he actually does it through Parting Shot as well, rather than to come out here and manual switch or anything like that. So the fact that they both benefit off switching in and out, and then if you go ahead and look into the team builder thing here, they resist each other's moves so well, it's unbelievable. It's like they're made for each other. So you have, you know, let's go over the weaknesses rather than to talk like the whole type chart. Obviously Sinistcha, weak to fire, boom. Incineroar, resist fire. Incineroar, weak to water. Sinistcha, resist water. They both resist grass, but then we talk about like Sinistcha's weakness to ice. Boom, Incineroar handles that, obviously. Incineroar, weak to fighting moves. Sinistcha, immune, being a ghost type. Incineroar, weak to ground moves. Sinistcha, resist. I mean, the list goes on and on, dude. It's actually crazy. So I guess you could say flying is the only one that they don't cover each other's weakness entirely for. There's nothing they're both weak to at the same time, though. And then likewise, like rock, I guess if you were to hit a rock move into Incin and then switch Sinistcha in, it's going to be, you know, neutral damage. But then we talk the ghost and dark combo. Obviously, Incineroar being a dark type is going to resist both those. And then Sinistcha being a ghost type is going to be weak to both of those. So it's like a combination of two different types being a perfect marriage for each other. Ghost and dark types are great fits. Grass and fire types are great fits. They both just so happen to be exactly that. If you wanted something different that fits this type of mold, you could even mix and mash a little bit, where like Meowscarada is grass and dark type, and then Surledge would be fire and ghost. So you'd kind of mix their two types, and it still works out in a perfect way. The same thing kind of is said about Maushold right here, where you could say him and Sinistcha have great synergy as well. I wouldn't say Maushold and Incineroar do on the switch-in combination, or like Maushold with Follow Me also is great. It's just you don't plan to have two support mons on the field at the same time, typically. So Maushold anyway, obviously, you know, weak to fighting, Sinistcha immune. Sinistcha, weak to ghost, obviously, you know, Maushold, immune. They fit each other perfectly, absolutely. So anyway, let's get back to the move pool support kits right here. So with Sinistcha, I'm going to go ahead and take you guys to the showdown just because it's a little bit more complicated on what some of the moves do. And I hope you're here for some breakdown because it's going to be a lot of yap talking about what these mons are good for, but that's what you're here for. Obviously, you're here to get informed, and you know, you're studying up on the Champions content before it drops, that you're already a step ahead of everybody. So anyway, Matcha Gotcha. This is going to be a huge like aspect component for Sinistcha to heal itself. 20% chance to burn, 80 power, 90 accuracy, and it hits both foes, you know, across from you. So in doubles, it's going to be spread damage. It recovers 50% of the damage that you deal. So this is a huge deal for Sinistcha to heal itself. Same could be said about Strength Sap, where this is going to heal yourself for the ally's attack stat number. I want to take you to the damage calculator real quick for this. Hopefully you can see this. I know it's not going to be zoomed in crazy, but I want to use Incineroar as an example on this, because I know he's like a, you know, staple mon. He's a huge deal. First of all, Incin can't fake out Sinistcha, so that's going to be a huge benefit off being ghost type. And then, as you can see right here, I have the most offensive Incineroar possible. It's adamant nature, attack up, obviously. 252 on the EVs, maxed out IVs, obviously, you know, we're not going to be changing those in Champions anyway. But all of that included, adamant nature, 252, and speed up, and all that stuff going to be outspeeding, hitting Sinistcha. You're like, oh, that's got to be it, right? Sinistcha actually lives this 100% of the time as long as it doesn't crit. Even if it burns, that's okay because you're going to be hitting Strength Sap into this. So, again, to try and explain to you guys the way that Strength Sap works, you're going to be taking their attack stat, which, as you can see right here highlighted, is 183. Sinistcha has 178 HP. So, the fact that Incineroar is faster than you, and then you live this move, and then he does recoil to himself up to 33% right here. That's going to be huge. And then you hit Strength Sap into Incineroar. That is going to be taking all that HP, healing you back fully, entirely, because his attack stat is that high. Then, off the fact that you hit Strength Sap, you're going to be lowering his attack, which then, I don't have it changing the number overall right here, but it will be lower, so the next Strength Sap you hit will recover less HP, but it also means he's going to be doing less damage to you. So, Sinistcha with like a max bulk, you know, defense up nature, fully invested into defense and HP. And I know the EVs aren't going to be the same going into Champions, but I do assume that it's going to be pretty similar in terms of the investment that you see on stuff like that. I think Strength Sap is a huge deal for particular mons that are like more specific. The thing is, you only have 4 move slots that you can use on Sinistcha. So you would argue if you want it to be a full support mon, you would run Matcha Gotcha, Strength Sap, Rage Powder, and Life Dew. Problem is, that's a lot of overlap of like healing per se. So if you want to run other stuff like, you know, damage dealing, I mean, to be fair, Machagacha is already a pretty good damage dealing move, but you could run Shadow Ball. Foul Play even is an option as well to utilize other people's attack stat against them. It does have Reflect as well, as you can see, but I think the right way to run this would probably be to run one of these 5 moves right here, in my opinion. I think Protect would be nice with my Paris Trap team that I'm planning to run. Protect is definitely something I'm interested in. Will 100% be running. So I have to narrow down what I want between like Life Dew, which in case you guys don't know what Life Dew does, heals the user and the ally by 1/4 of its health. So you already have the fact that you're going to be on the switch in healing your ally by 1/4 of the health, and then you can hit the move that heals yourself and ally for 1/4 of the health as well. So this is going to be better for healing teammates. Strength Sap and Machagacha are going to be better for healing yourself. And then Rage Powder can synergize pretty good with Strength Sap Machagacha because you can force people to attack into you. Same thing of what I was just talking to y'all about with like these two working together. One has Rage Powder, one has Follow Me. If they're ever on the field at the same time, you can hit Rage Powder to force fighting moves to come into Sinistcha. Boom, doesn't hit Maushold. You could also hit Follow Me to force ghost moves into Maushold, and then nothing hits. So the great synergy between these 3 is actually like off the charts. It's unbelievable. I plan to run all 3 as my heavy support core for my Paris Trap team that I'm gonna be running. But anyway, let's move forward. We pretty much talked about everything of Sinistcha's kit. I wouldn't really think a lot of this stuff at the bottom is really going to be worth running just because there's so much value to these moves at the top. So if you want something like Trick Room for your team, feel free to, and you can delete one of these moves up top. If you want to run this with no Protect, I think that's definitely a way you could go if you were looking into doing that with like a non-Paris team that you don't really care as much about protecting Sinistcha because it's there to protect others, you know? But I do think that type of versatility is going to be pretty helpful. But anyway, let's move on to Grimmsnarl. Let's just start from the top right here of like what I have in the notes. Grimmsnarl, going to be a huge deal in terms of like shutting down other support mons. Like this is, you know, when they talk about your favorite player's favorite player or something like that, this is your favorite support mon's favorite support mon. Although in a case of talking about how they match up against each other, it's going to be least favorite. So again, Grimmsnarl, Dark type, Pranksters don't work on him. You can't do like, you know, the stuff like that to shut people down. Fake Out, going to be able to shut down other support mons like, you know, right out the gate. Priority Parting Shot. This is a crazy kit, like toolkit that he has where he can play like Incineroar, but in a fast style, where you're going to be on the lead, hit Fake Out, allow your teammate to do things out the gate, like for instance, in my case, Perish Song on Gengar, and then come out here on the next turn, Priority Prankster, boom, you're out instantly just like that. You're dropping their attack stat and special attack before they can even get their attacks off. I mean, Grimmsnarl just shuts people down physically and especially. So I really do like that, and that's why I think Light Screen on him would be good ball as well. I think what I would say between the two of them is that Incineroar shuts people down physically a lot better, whereas Grimmsnarl at least can allow you to shut them down specially, because Incineroar on switch-in will drop their attack with the Intimidate, but then Grimmsnarl doesn't really have that type of kind of like capability. The thing is that the Parting Shot can hit before they attack, so that's why I do believe he's more of a special wall than Incineroar would be. There's other like deep kit to him too, as you can see. We have things like Thunder Wave. I'll kind of go from top to bottom though, just talking about what he's good for. You could talk Light Clay to allow your Light Screen and Reflect to be 8 turns rather than, you know, 5 or something like that too. Taunt into other, like, you know, support mons is going to be a huge deal. This is why I say he's going to be the nightmare to other supports, because if you were to be able to hit him with a priority taunt and then they try and use a support move like, let's say, Spore or something like that, boom, shut down. Can't even do it. It's like this guy is Amungus's worst nightmare, besides the fact that poison super affects him. So if people were running like a sludge bomb Amungus or something, it might do decent damage. But either way, point being, he's really good support, can really allow you to set up for like shutting them down, especially and physically. Shuts them down for a turn with the Fake Out. Sucker Punch to get the priority stab damage off. And not to mention, I mean, he has some very good attack for a support mon. I know he's not the most bulky. I mean, 95 HP and 75 specialty is definitely good. The speed doesn't matter because everything he does is going to be, you know, Priority Prankster or Priority Sucker Punch or something like that, unless you want it to run, as you can see, Spirit Break on him. Going to be a 75 power fairy move. I don't think that's going to be really worth IMO, but it is what it is. Substitute, as you can see, I have parentheses on this. Very intriguing value, but it's a little bit more risky than something like Protect. If you wanted to run Sub instead of Protect on him, though, the only way you'd get punished for this is if they attack into you, boom, that's minus 25% HP rather than to Protect and like save yourself entirely. Or if they double into you when you hit Sub, it's possible they knock off your Sub and KO you on like the second person attacking you if you're playing doubles. The thing is, though, if nobody targeted into you and you clicked Protect, that's going to be lost value where you just literally got mogged for the turn. I mean, that's not good, right? Like if you hit Protect and they doubled into your other teammate, and like for that to be on a support mon is really tough to try and protect your support guy, and they didn't even focus him at all. So if you want to run priority substitute, I think this could actually be like really good value, and it would protect yourself from other taunts. So I think we'll talk about the items in a second here, but I think what I do want to talk to you guys is we'll just throw Mental Herb on somebody real quick. This is going to protect you from Attract, but more importantly, Disable, Encore, Taunt, Torment, stuff like that, and it's a single-use item. The thing is, if you want to run Priority Substitute on Grimmsnarl, that is essentially going to be like the Mental Herb, but you know, being more flexible in that sense. Not to mention if they didn't target you at all with damaging moves, now you're just on the field with a substitute, can do things like set up light screen, reflect, use taunt and stuff like that on opponents. I don't think you'd want to hit parting shot with a sub up because obviously it's going to make it so you don't really get the same value out of being on the field with the sub. So probably not ideal in that sense, but if you think this fits the synergy of the moveset and the team that you want to run, absolutely feel free to. T-Wave, like I was just talking to y'all about, being able to shut down opposing Talonflames off the fake out, taking their Gale Wings off and then cutting their speed. Anybody that's just a fast Tailwind setter rather than a prankster Tailwind setter. Whimsicott wouldn't really work the same way, obviously, so a little tough, you know, to try and like make that work. Trick is a cool little idea for if you had a Flame Orb or something like that and you wanted to let's say run Grimmsnarl with not any attacking moves like that are really going to be like, you could run 4 support moves, right, and run that sub like I was talking about so people can't taunt you. Then if you want to run like a Flame Orb on him and trick that onto people, you could do that as like a 100% accuracy Will-O-Wisp, if you will, but also stealing their item in the process too. So you could really shut down physical attackers that way instead of with the you know, Intimidate like Incineroar has. It's a cool idea, but it's a little harder in practice, I would say. Fake Tears going to be dropping their special D by 2 stages, and priority on that is pretty clean. You'll see that on Whimsicott later as well. And then I put in asterisk Misty Terrain on Grimmsnarl. I don't think it's ever be worth running a terrain move or like in some cases a weather move. Grimmsnarl doesn't get them like Rain Dance and Sunny Day. It's actually what we just talked about in the last video. But yeah, the idea of running Misty Terrain, it's like kinda there, sorta. You could do this to shut down opposing Psy spam teams with the Psychic Terrain and hit an Expanding Force spam. And obviously Grimmsnarl is a great player for that because he's already Dark type anyway, so it doesn't even get hit by it. So you'd be allowing your teammate to bypass stuff like that. Like for instance, Psy spam into Gengar or something like that, hit an Expanding Force and just thinking you don't even have to think about it. Now you could hit Misty Terrain, you know, priority first turn, protect with Gengar, and then on the next turn disable the Expanding Force, and boom, there you go. Now you're really in business. But anyway, yeah, just a cool little Grimmsnarl kit right there. Let's move on to Maushold. As you can see, now this guy, I like him a lot, and I have him in a bit of a unique way. So I'm the kind of guy that just likes to irritate people, for sure. So what I'd want to do with Maushold, as you can see, is gonna be like real deal speed. I would like to bulk him a little bit too. That's why we go with the HP, so we can split both ways between defense and special D, you know, taking those types of hits. But I want him to be fast, and the nature is going to 100% be speed up. You could even argue, you know, dropping this down a little bit and investing otherwise, but definitely speed up nature because it's his highest base. But anyway, the point is, King's Rock Population Bomb. If you're not familiar with how Population Bomb works, it is a 20 power move that could hit up to 10 times. So if you run like a wide lens on this, it's very likely you'd hit every single attack, and it's going to be like a 200 power normal move. That is pretty big time. However, I want to run Maushold in a bit of a different way. That is very cringe. So what you're going to see with him is he has a King's Rock, right? So it's a little bit of a gamble. if you were to, and I don't have the math done on this entirely, like I don't know, maybe I should do that sometime. I'll sit down in a spreadsheet and talk like, what are the percentage odds of hitting, you know, one population bomb is going to be 90%. I don't know what that means for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, and 10. But if you were to hit all 10 times on a 90% accuracy move, you are guaranteed a flinch off the fact that you have King's Rock on. It's not likely that's going to happen. More likely than not, you're going to hit more like somewhere between, I'd say probably like 3 to 7 or something like that. But either way, the chances of flinching are extremely high. He still has the utility of like follow me to redirect moves into him. And then also, I think his biggest kit is the friend guard. Making it so like 25% of the damage doesn't get done to your teammates is really cool. Not to mention he's a very fast encore mon as well. So if they were to hit something like protect or fake out on the first turn, you could even, let's give you an example right here. Use follow me on a turn where they're trying to fake out your other teammate. You redirect the fake out into Maushold, and then on the next turn, hit Encore to force them to keep on using fake out. And then again, with the Gengar, I mean, like Paris Trap, I mean, they can't get in, like, out of the field at all, and if they get stuck hitting fake out, they're just literally dead weight and can't switch out. So that stuff is disgusting. And that's why I want them really fast too, so that you can hold that type of presence of the Encore on a lot of people, like a ton, with 111 base speed and then fully maxed out, fully invested. That would be huge. So because we're not really focusing on his, like, you know, damage dealing, that's why I like the speed. That's why I like running Population Bomb with the King's Rock rather than to run something like Wide Lens or anything like that. Because we're not really concerned about the damage we're dealing. We're just trying to be a flinch mon, like absolutely cringe people. So let's go back to this. Let's go over his full kit. You could do something like Super Fang where it's going to cut their HP in half. This is like a 90% accurate move. Not like something I'm looking to do, but definitely something a lot of people do for sure. Taunt, again, shutting down their, you know, status moves and stuff like that. This would be really good. If you wanted to run that instead of Encore, absolutely you could. T-Wave, obviously good utility, but I don't think that's the kind of stuff I'm trying to be on with him. U-turn, interesting for sure, right? To be able to pivot in and out, especially with the friend guard. I think being fast though and pivoting with the U-turn, not exactly as useful, because then your teammate might get hit and the friend guard's not even out there. This would be very useful if it was like a slow U-turn from someone a little bit more bulky, but not exactly what we're looking to do. But I don't know, it just depends, you know, whose team you're talking. After you is interesting. It will allow your ally, if it's like, let's say you have a Mega Camerupt, 20 base speed, super slow, don't have Trick Room set up or anything like that. Maushold though, being extremely fast, after you allows you to, whoever you use the move on will go exactly after you in the turn order. So you now, like, it's like assisting your Camerupt to become like some speed demon, or Torkoal with Eruption or something like that. Using after you on Torkoal will force him to like go directly after you, and because Maushold is so fast, that would allow your Torkoal to get off eruptions before people can even hit into you. It's really interesting for sure. I know like this is a lot of off meta stuff we're talking, but it's the type of stuff I'm interested in for sure. Charm and Fake Tears, you know, some value, and then it also has the ability to set weathers if you wanted to do stuff like what I was talking about in the last video with Sableye of being able to counteract other people's weather against them. But I don't know, Maushold has too much of a deep kit where it's like really hard to resonate with the idea of running those weather moves on him. So anyway, we've already talked Sinistcha, Grimmsnarl, and Maushold. Let's now talk Incineroar, going a little bit deeper into the bag right here. The problem with Incineroar is he has been confirmed to, I believe, have Taunt and Knockoff removed from him. So I didn't put Taunt in here. It is like a really good like move to run on Incineroar though, if you wanted to do stuff like that. Flare Blitz is going to be his biggest move, like as far as damaging form goes, and then with Knockoff taken off, I think Darkest Lariat is going to be probably what people run for him as far as like dark coverage. I don't know though, a lot of this news to me has me wanting to run a no damaging Incineroar on my Paris team and just run Fake Out, Parting Shot, Protect, Will-O-Wisp. Now, nobody runs Protect on Incineroar other than like Wolfie on the Paris team as well, for that same exact reason, because it's probably the only time you really do want to protect Incineroar. And then nobody really runs Will-O-Wisp either, but to be able to cut people's physical damage like crazy while also already having the type of involvement of the Fake Out, Intimidate, Parting Shot trio, all kind of just cycling in and out, you know, and to still be able to have Will-O-Wisp if you wanted to stay on the field into someone you match up really well defensively. So like, let's say, you know, grass types, physical grass types, some Kartana type beat, even though you'd probably get destroyed by Sacred Sword. But point is, you know, physical grass types, physical ice types, you can't do it with physical fire types because obviously you can't burn them. And it's not like there's that many physical ghost types either, but like dark, steel, etc., etc. Metagross would be a good example right here. Stay in on Metagross, and because he has Clear Body, non-mega, right? Because he has Clear Body, he can't have his Intimidate, like, you know, attack stat dropped or anything like that, but you could stay in and cut his attack with Will-O-Wisp instead. So, and he obviously can't do much to you. Psychic isn't even going to hit into you, and then Steel isn't hitting you very well either because it resists. So, like, that would allow you to be a really good Metagross counter, you know? Even his Mega as well, depending on the moves he's running. Could be running Quake or, like, Hammer Arm, so it might be a little bit concerning. But, anyway, U-Turn is interesting, but considering he has Parting Shot, not exactly worth, in my opinion. I think Parting Shot is just a way better way to use that. U-Turn maybe be decent for, like, offensively speaking, though. Parting Shot is a much more defensive move, 100%. And then Helping Hand, decent to have. It's obviously going to be priority and allow you to set your teammate up to like take KOs. Snarl can hit for spread damage, knock off focus sashes, also drop the special attack of each of your opponents, which can be useful considering, like I said, Incineroar is much more of a physical attack dropper with his Intimidate. But if you come in there and Intimidate and then fake out, shut someone down, and then if you wanted to stay in and Snarl or something like that, drop their special attack after you already did double attack drop with the Intimidate. It's interesting. And then for a couple of other moves that I have for like some kit right here, I want to introduce you guys to the concept of Stomping Tantrum and Temper Flare. Let's load up over here and kind of talk about that real quick. So we have Stomping Tantrum and then Temper Flare too. These moves double in power if the last move failed. So if you were to, let's say in a, we'll call it a stall team, something like that. If you tried to fake out somebody but you got faked out, now you're online for Stomping Tantrum Temper Flare. So if you're running a slow Incineroar and let's say their Incineroar faked yours out, something like that, right? That would allow you to come back the next turn with a 150 power Stomping Tantrum into their Incineroar. Or if you're talking just you want to run your stab move and not worry about opposing Incineroars, just rather a different person that's like a fast fake out mon. Or it doesn't even have to be the person that faked you out. It could be the person sitting next to the guy that faked you out. Anyway, point is, boom, 150 base power Temper Flare coming into them, and that would be pretty gnarly, I'm not gonna lie. So I will say it's a little bit more niche, a little bit off meta, but again, that's what we're here for. I'm just here to explain to you guys some cool little interesting ideas. So next up, I want to move along. I know this is gonna be a really long video, but I think it's cool. I'm gonna test this out. Obviously, I'm brand new to the content here, so I'm not sure if people are vibing with the super long content or not yet, but hey, like I said, I'm down to try things out. So let me know if you guys enjoy the super long vids and getting real detailed and descriptive with stuff. But anyway, I don't think people really call Serperior a support mon. This is my favorite Pokemon in all of the game, for that matter too, by the way. I just love this guy. I was playing Pokerogue with him, and this was absolutely my carry. Like anytime I'd just like need him. Contrary is just such a cool ability, and then the fact that in with a stab move that's 130 power and it's dropping your special attack 2 stages, I think this is a very severely underrated Pokemon in all of history, but I think the problem is nobody gives him a fair shot with the way that they run his moves. Now, what was pretty interesting about him in this generation of Gen 9 was if you were to run Terra Stellar, Terra Blast, essentially this move, if it was Stellar, would drop your attack and special attack 1 stage. So what was cool about this is you were able to hit everybody for neutral damage, because I think that's the problem with Serperior, right, is like being a mono grass type and your only good move being grass, there's just so many people that will resist it. Like if we look into the, you know, grass moves, this isn't exactly a type chart, but point being, you know, like into Incineroar, Sinistcha, Whimsicott, like if that was your only move you can hit into people, it's going to be not great damage. I think like this generation treated Serperior the best he probably ever has been able to. It's just, it still wasn't something that people even ran that much. Anyway, point being, I don't think this is the end of the world not having this, because I think it allows you to just run even more support stuff. You can even run Protect in one of these slots as well. If you just want this to be a guy that's spreading paralysis with like a really fast Pokemon, or if you want to just still run Taunt, for instance, I think you could argue that maybe this would be the right way to go about him. And then I don't know who you really want for the item, to be fair. You could even run Leftovers on him if you'd really like to. Because what this is going to be, right? I want to explain the archetype that Serperior as a support mon is. he is somebody that's going to be able to slot in and shut down other supports because he's extremely fast with, like, 113 base, max out his speed. Also, still very good defense, 95 special, 95 defense, and then 75 HP. Invest into that HP to raise it up. Boom. Now you're able to shut down other supports with taunt. You still have a glare to shut down the really big threats and speed sweepers on the other team. And then also, they cannot ignore you at all. They cannot afford to ignore you, because if you let this get online and start stacking up 2 turns in a row, you're now 4 stages up on your special attack, hitting 130 base power or 130 power moves, stab into other people. That's gonna be a huge problem. So if you want like a hybrid support, that's not exactly the greatest support, because these aren't insane support moves or anything like that. But we do have a deeper kit right here, as we're going to show you right here. So, I mean, you could run a lot of different stuff. You could run coverage on him, like Dragon Pulse is going to really cover for a lot of different types. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the only things that Dragon are bad into is Steel and Fairy. The counter argument to running Dragon Pulse is it doesn't hit super effectively into anything other than Dragon. But again, the point is, when you start getting online with like +2s, +4s, but then all of a sudden people are shutting you down because they bring in their, I don't know, it's not like Turtonator's a freaking popular mon, but I'm just thinking of like a Fire Dragon type that's going to quad resist grass moves. Boom, now all of a sudden, slap that Dragon Pulse on him, you're going to destroy that guy. You know, as opposed to you being shut down before. The deeper move pool kit that we have right here is going to be things like knockoff. Even though you're trying to stack your special attack with Serperior, you got to still think the value of taking their move off can be kind of decent. Not to mention it's okay coverage. Not exactly something you're like super interested in running on him, but I don't know. It's like something to still throw on here as like a decent idea. You can even argue if you wanted to run like an Assault Vest Serperior and run things like Knockoff, Dragon Pulse, Leaf Storm, and then maybe Breaking Swipe as well. Could be interesting. I'm not here to say that it's something that I would do, but if you're interested in the idea of Breaking Swipe, though, that is a way to kind of shut people down a little bit. You're going to drop their attack stage, by 1 stage, and it's going to work into both opponents. And it's still 60 power dragon move physical. It's not great, but again, it's like I said, I mean, you're here to shut other people down, and it could low-key be a decent way to do that. So, anyway, as far as other things he brings to the table, light screen, reflect options, substitute, could be decent on Serperior, all things considered. I think the way that people are going to want to shut someone like Serperior down is to paralyze him or sleep him or something like that, which is harder to do, obviously, because being a grass type doesn't really work that way. I think Sub can protect you from the paralysis quite a bit if you wanted to cover for that. Not to mention, I think Lumberry on Serperior is not even like a terrible idea as well. So, I don't know. I'd consider that, but yeah. Grassy Terrain and Mean Look. Mean Look would be interesting for the Paris teams, where if you had to switch Gengar out, boom, you can Mean Look somebody, make sure they can't switch out, even though Gengar with the, Shadow Tag just switched out. Grassy Terrain, same reason I was just talking about it on Grimmsnarl. Not really something you'd want to run that much, but it can heal your team. It can also shut down the Psy Spam, and then debatably, I think he actually matches up neutrally into Psy Spam. Obviously, people aren't hitting him super effectively, but yeah, I mean, to be able to take that offline and start hitting Leaf Storms on people, I think that could be pretty decent. But I don't know, it's not really worth considering. I think it's very outside the norm. But anyway, just wanted to throw my boy Serperior out there, because I really do think people like sleep on him as a support mon. The fast glare can be really, really valuable. That's even better than Thunder Wave, off the fact that it's 100% accurate. So, last but not least, we have Whimsicott. It's not exactly a mon that I'm as interested in running, but I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that want a fast Tailwind setter, and obviously you have that in Prankster. So the only person that's going to be doing this faster than you is Talonflame. Now, the unfortunate thing is, Talonflame's going to match up really well into Whimsicott, because you could argue, like, you both get the Tailwinds off, boom. Theirs went first. Now, like, you both spent a turn supporting. Now, on the next turn, you're both Tailwinded, so Talonflame's just going to be way faster and then can just destroy you with a Flare Blitz or something like that, or a Brave Bird. Both moves super effective into Whimsicott. It's going to be a little bit of a tough thing for Whimsicott to win that arms race in particular. You could argue there's a lot of other ways to kind of, like, capitalize on that, but I don't know if it's going to be too great. Anyway, Whimsicott is still overall a really good support mon, though. Tailwind, Encore. I mean, Prankster Encore is always going to be great. Moonblast is still a really good damaging move to carry on Whimsicott, while still not being, like, the most terrible special attacker. 77's not great, but with being naturally fast, you can still get those Moonblasts off. I was playing the Regulation I think is what it was, and Koraidon being a fighting type and dragon type, I mean, it was insane to see Whimsicott able to actually take out one of the most menacing threats in the game with a Moonblast, just because it was, you know, 4x super effective, and like really you had to carry that on Whimsicott. If you were coming into these nasty legendary matchups and didn't have anything for them, that definitely was good coverage. So Moonblast, really valid. Protect, again, obviously something you just want on people. Light Screen, it doesn't have Reflect, but Light Screen can still be like pretty decent value. Trick Room, the same thing we've talked about with things like Klefki and blah blah blah, all these other people that run this Trick Room on a Prankster, but it's like you don't actually get priority on the Trick Room. I learned that the hard way a while ago. I came into some showdown game thinking I was about to hit priority pranksters. I thought I had the game figured out. I'm like, why don't people do this at all? Come to find out, Trick Room is like -6 priority, bro. So, yeah, not good ball. Switcheroo. We already talked about this. The whole, you know, Flame Orb on something like Whimsicott. Switcheroo that over. I didn't talk about it in this video. I talked about it in the last one, but I do want to kind of divulge on that a little bit. If you were to, let's say, get burnt on the first turn while setting Tailwind, and then you wanted to switcheroo your Flame Orb and now you're burnt, the thing is, they can't sleep you, they can't para you, they can't poison you, they can't do anything status-wise because you're already burnt. And on Whimsicott, not being a physical attacker, not even really being that interested in attacking in the first place, to be burnt isn't the worst thing in the world. It's actually a net positive in some ways, again, because like I just said, they can't para you. So then you could switcheroo your Flame Orb onto somebody that doesn't want to be burnt. Let's talk like a Koraidon, for instance, right? I mean, dude is, like, you know, not a fire type at the end of the day. So if you want to switcheroo your Flame Orb onto him, take away his, like, Choice Scarf, Choice Band, something like that. The thing is, it might depend. You might want that more of, like, an open team sheet thing, because I don't know if you really want to just randomly switcheroo into, like, just the void and not know what item you're getting back, because if you did get a Choice Band, that'd be terrible ball for you. Or even Scarf wouldn't really be that great either, so I don't know. If it's something like Leftovers though, or Covert Cloak, or all types of stuff that could really cover you, and we'll talk about those good support items in a sec when we're done with Whimsicott here, it could be interesting for sure. You'd get like a triple whammy. You'd be able to not get burnt yourself, force a terrible item onto somebody else, and then take their useful item as well. So triple whammy, boom. It's something that you could consider. Now, speaking of, we have Whimsicott with a couple of status moves that are going to be raising and dropping stats. This is stuff you can really consider on Whimsicott. It's just that it's hard to find a spot for all of them. But let's talk what's useful. Cotton Spore, you can drop their speed, cut it in half, boom, now all of a sudden you're destroying them. Problem is, Tailwind's a little bit better than that, so you probably don't find yourself running it. This could be a little bit more targeted, though, into one person in specific. Cotton Guard will raise your own defense 3 stages. That is insane, obviously, with Prankster, too. Like, I mean, people that think they're going to KO you, like that Talonflame I'm talking about, right? Though maybe Gale Wings, Brave Bird can still hit into that, I think beats Prankster. Point is, though, let's say they use Flare Blitz, Sun Boosted Flare Blitz. Boom, you come out here, Cotton Guard, +3 defense. I don't know the calc, to be fair, but I would argue that might not kill. I think you have a decent chance at living with +3 defense into a Flare Blitz. Maybe the Sun Boost screws you over too much, though, for that. But anyway, yeah, you got things like Charm, drop their attack 2 stages. Fake Tears is very intriguing, because you could do things like surround this with a special attacker that is pretty fast, and then all of a sudden, what they thought was going to be a 2-hit KO now becomes a 1-hit KO because you dropped their special D 2 stages, and then your Gengar just destroyed somebody with a Shadow Ball or something like that, right? We got Helping Day, Sunny Day, Grassy Terrain, Misty Terrain, Worry Seed. This concerns me a little bit with my Mega Gengar ideas, because you're going to come out here and think that your Shadow Tag is going to be all good and whatnot, but then boom, Worry Seed takes that away. Uh-oh. This Whimsicott is going to be a big problem, and I don't have a poison move on. Not good. So, yeah, definitely concerning, but I don't think you're going to run into that too much. It is something to keep in mind, though. Worry Seed can be very, very valuable. It's going to turn your ability into Insomnia, in case you're not familiar with Worry Seed's bag. But, yeah, pretty solid overall. Anyway, that is all for Whimsicott's bag. I think it's a pretty good little guide for you guys right there. And then for support items that I find very intriguing, eject button was something I wanted to run on. Here, I'll come back to the team builder real quick. For Sinistcha, eject button is something I'm definitely considering. You would be able to switch in, use your hospitality, heal your allies 1/4 of their health, and then instantly get out. So you can use it as a pivot of, let's say, boom, switching it into Incineroar slot who's trying to get hit by a water move, a ground move, something like that. Switch in, heal your teammate that's on the side of you, get eject buttoned out, and then instantly get back into Incineroar for another Intimidate, Fake Out, Parting Shot. You might have just came in here, hit the Intimidate, Fake Out, and then Parting Shotted your way out, went into Sinistcha, boom, got eject buttoned back into Incineroar, and now you're able to do the Fake Out, Parting Shot cycle all over again. That's like crazy value. The problem is eject button might troll you in some cases as well. So you got to really be specific with it. I think it's a very high skill variance item, but I do believe that a lot of people, if they set it up right, can definitely make some use out of this for sure. Anyway, Mental Herb, we already talked about this. Prevents a lot of the shutdown moves, disable, encore, taunt, attract, etc., etc. This is good on people that you really just are not running any fighting moves on at all. So let me pull up my Paris team real quick to show you guys what I'm talking about. I'm running this on Altaria right now, where we have Mental Herb with like Cotton Guard, Roost, Paris Song, and Protect. It would troll me really hard if someone were to hit like, you know, taunt into Altaria. So instead, I'm going to be running, you know, the Mental Herb on it so that I can't get my Paris Song stopped, because that would be really bad, you know. And likewise with the fact that like they could even hit it twice, and now I'm kind of screwed, but oh well, at least I got the Paris Song off and I can switch out if it was that bad. But yeah, this is a one-time use thing though. You can't just have it constantly stop this. I'm not gonna lie, it would be very overpowered if that were the case, so I think that's good balance on their part. But yeah, Mental Herb, really good for people that don't have any fighting moves at all, and you just cannot afford for them to get shut down by taunt, and especially if they're not like a prankster mon, because like, you know, I mean, to come out here with something like let me load up the Grimmsnarl real quick. I don't know if Grimmsnarl matters as much for something like that, because he can use priority prankster taunt into somebody, so then that stops them from even using taunt, I'm pretty sure. Leave in the comments if I'm wrong on that, because I'm not exactly sure, but I think if you use taunt into somebody using taunt, it's going to stop them from using it, and you win the war right there. So for someone like him, I don't think it's as important, even though I'm still using like no damaging moves other than Fake Out on him. And not to mention I can like priority prankster Parting Shot out, so it's not as big a deal. Altaria has no way of dealing with that on whatever moveset you run with it if it has no move. So yeah, just a lot more important in that sense. Covert Cloak stops secondary effects of moves from working. So flinch from Fake Out, let's say paralysis and flinch from Thunderfang, stuff like that. It's going to be really useful for someone like, let's say, Incineroar, if you want to just win a Fake Out war but not have to make yours extremely fast or something like that. Or even you can make the case for somebody like Altaria, again, of not being able to get shut down. For Ghost types, absolutely does not matter. I wouldn't really run this on a Ghost type because you can't even get faked out anyway. And I think that's the main priority of concern. You're not as worried about, like, you know, Para from Thunderfang or Blizzard freezes and stuff like that. Oh well, it is what it is. Hacks are just hacks, you know. You can't always play around that. But anyway, for Maushold, King's Rock. I already talked about this, blah, blah, blah. I don't think anybody else really benefits off King's Rock other than him. That's a very specific thing, and some people don't even run that on him, to be fair. I'd say a lot of people don't run that on him. But anyway, Safety Goggles, really good item as well. This is going to prevent redirect from things like Rage Power, stop sleep from Spore. This is really good for a non-grass type. I think grass types, you don't really have to worry about this, so like Sinistcha, don't worry about this type of item. I would definitely just run something like Eject Button or Mental Herb or I don't even know. Sinistcha really covers a lot of the items that we don't need, because you could argue probably even Citrus Berry would be good on Sinistcha if you weren't running the Eject Button. But yeah, you don't really need Covert Cloak because you're not going to get faked out, and then you don't need Safety Goggles because you can't even have that type of move used on you because you're Grass type. So I don't know. It's kind of interesting. But I'd definitely consider this for someone like Incineroar again, where let's say Sandstorm damage, you don't take any at that point. You can't get slept from Spore, Amoonguss. You can't, like, you know, get Rage Powdered, so your Fake Out gets put into a different slot, something like that. This does not work on Follow Me, though. I looked that up because I wasn't exactly sure how to go about that. If Maushold is on the field, it can still use Follow Me, and Safety Goggles doesn't protect you from that. And then lastly, we have Focus Sash, which is going to be obviously a really good item to have on frail Pokemon. So you could argue Grimmsnarl. Let me come back over to this real quick. For Grimmsnarl, he doesn't really have very good defense. His HP is good though, so he probably could live a lot of decent attacks. I think Sableye would probably be a better example of this. Let me go find my boy real quick. All right, I couldn't find him, so I'm just gonna go ahead and load up a set with him. But anyway, yeah, for Sableye, really frail. 50 HP, 75 defense, 65 specialty. You could argue something like Focus Sash on him would definitely be valuable. You'll at the very least, get guaranteed 2 hits to have to come into you to KO you, and I think that's pretty good. I shouldn't say at the very least, because there are things like Dual Wing Beat or Surging Strikes from Urshifu where that would be very concerning, because then your Focus Sash doesn't even matter, because the multi-hit moves can just bypass Focus Sash. So yeah, besides that though, really valuable. And then things like Chesto Berry, Lumberry. Chesto, I want to put y'all onto some tech. So Chesto Berry plus Rest. If you have someone with a ton of HP, like a ton, and you just want to run Chesto, me and my friends call that the Resto Chesto in our Nuzlocke games, because it could just be so valuable. It's a full recovery, full HP recovery, and as long as you ran Chesto on it, you could actually benefit from that. Not to mention, you might argue, well, why not just run Lumberry instead of Chesto? The thing is, if you are Chesto Berry, you can use Rest to heal yourself from something like Para or Burn, right? If you are burnt, you are para'd. You can Rest, it will bypass that status ailment on you and now make you asleep and then cure you of the sleep. So now you can wipe off that type of status move. I think someone like Snorlax is the perfect example for this. You want to burn Snorlax to cut his attack. You want to para him to make it so he can't get his moves to work. Now all of a sudden with the Chesto Berry, you just run the Rest, boom, heal yourself all the way back up with that crazy amount of HP, and now here you are, right? Just full HP. Or, not to mention, it still covers you for getting put to sleep, like Spores and stuff like that, and Hypnosis, etc. Dark Void, all that stuff can still cover for that. So, though Chesto is not something that's going to be used consistently, if you use it on somebody that utilizes a Rest, you could absolutely see value in it no matter what type of team you run into, and then it still will cover you for the sleep, people that want to run stuff like that. Light Clay, good item, definitely valid for the people that have the screens on, like Klefki, Grimmsnarl, whoever you decided to run Light Screen Reflect on. You could even say as well, if you want to call Ninetales a support mon, the Alolan Ninetales. Let's load that up real quick. You get the Snow Warning to get the snow in, and then also to run fast Aurora Veil and be able to cut the damage in half on physical and special defense. That is huge, absolutely huge. So if you ran Light Clay on this as well, boom, that's turning that from 5 turns to 8 turns. This is so criminal if you're a stall team to be able to run something like this. So if that fits on your team, you could even call Ninetales a support mon too, for sure. But I mean, yeah, I think Ninetales deserves to be called a support mon, I would say. But anyway, that's all for the video. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, feel free to drop a like, sub, if you're new, turn on notice, all that good stuff. Like always, just try to swan to 100 likes again. And if you enjoyed the video and you made it all the way to the end, put support in the comments to show that you made it all the way through, or you could put your favorite support mon in the comments as well. Just show some love to any of these guys right here. If you got a different curveball one that you want to throw in the comments as well. I don't know how long this video was. It very well could have been almost an hour, but it's alright. Like I said, I'm in my experiment phase here. I want to see how these do on the YouTube, so I'm not going into Champions not knowing what type of content I'm allowed to make, if you will. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the yap sesh. I'm always here for this. I am a yapper. Absolute yapper. The guys in my 2K content from my main channel would so attest to this 100%. But anyway, yeah, I hope to bring that to Pokemon 100%. I am here to learn information and regurgitate that out to you guys as well. And if anybody ever has stuff they want to teach me, I am a sponge. I want to learn more, and I have no ego to ever hear that from the comments. So if there's ever anything that I don't know or said something wrong, point it out. Absolutely let me know, because as much as it does suck to get called out on not knowing something, I want to learn. I'm just trying to get better at the game 100%. So I am a sponge of information, and I am ready to absolutely use that to my advantage here in this game. Anyway, that's all for the vid. Hope y'all enjoyed. Stay tuned for the next one. In the next one, I'm going to go over this Paris team. I'm getting really close to the final draft right here of what I want to run for it. It's a one-trick Paris team. Very few damaging moves, a ton of pivot switching, and just being cringe. I'm so looking forward to this. I'm concerned that we won't get the Gengar Mega Stone early enough for me to be able to use this on day one. Hopefully that Mega Stone's in the game off rip though. I will be absolutely freaking so sad if it's not. I would be devastated, bro. But anyway, that's all. Appreciate y'all for watching. None of that. Take it easy, man. Peace.